All right. Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast. And tonight here, I have truly a special guest. And for me, I've known this man over 10 years plus in the New York City salsa scene. I mean, he right now is a traveling professional dancer. You've seen the Broadway On Your Feet musical that just finished last year, their national tour as well. Going to be in the new West Side Story film to be released. The one and only Adriel.
What's up, guys?
What's up, my brother, man? Ah, man, it's been too long since we've seen.
Yeah, man, at least like 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, seeing just your trajectory, seeing your journey over the years, and see how you really push the limits. And for me, like I've told you privately and publicly, how proud I am to know someone like you, that we've hung out, we've been through the similar experiences in our salsa scene, but seeing how far you've grown and matured and really have become a leader in this dance community, man, it's my honor to have you on tonight.
It is my pleasure, Diamond. And knowing you for so many years, you've always had a kind, open heart with me, always taking me in, welcomed me into your circle of people since we were little kids on the New York Salsa Congress stage. I'm just super happy to be here, super appreciative of your work, and I'm very honored too.
Yeah, man. And for me, I think it's so important these past few months, like I've told you, that having this podcast, having the opportunity to talk to so many people that I feel are very important, that I feel have contributed so much to their community, for me watching them and also being inspired and realizing a person like yourself, like you said, we've grown up in this scene. We've been through a lot. It's helped mold us in some ways, but us growing as adults, we've still been involved in dance. So, having this tonight is special. We're going to really take it all the way from the beginning and seeing where you are presently. But even before anything, just to let you know, throughout the interview, we will be having real live time comments coming in as well. Just for example, my boy Melvin War here watching right now as well. And we want you to know tonight we're going to be having a special segment called The Randoms, which is a 10-question little questionnaire, a little funny, get into to see a lot more about a person. So it should be definitely fun. But man,
let's get it
started. How have you been thus far? Like, what's new with Adriel?
I've been good, man. I've literally been in my house a lot of the time during the period from March to about September, where we started to, ease up on some of the quarantine and COVID situation. But I've been good, man. Last year was a ride. I got to do one of the biggest, films of the year, and recording in New York City, filming all over the place. I'm just super honored to be here, and I've been feeling good, man. I've been just trying to also adapt to what's going on in the world, and being back in New York City after traveling for 2 years. It was a bit of a shock coming back because I didn't know what to expect. What was going on here with my family, with my friends. So I'm really glad to be reunited since last April when I came back from touring, to be with my family and my friends, which I'm a big family man. So I'm family first all the time. So I'm really glad that the holidays are coming around and we're getting lit and we're talking again. We're getting reunited, not in huge groups, but we do what we can to stay connected, man, because that's all we have. That's what I've been up to, just super connected with family and certain friends, and trying to stay in touch as we're doing.
Absolutely. And the word you said, connection, and realizing, like you said, during quarantine, we find new ways to connect with one another.
Yeah.
Where we are right now, talking with one another. And it's so important for me to understand how you are as a human being.
Thank you, bro.
Especially with artists, our lives are consumed by other people, what they see in front of them. But a lot of times, of course, if we don't, we have a wall, there's a private life that we have and a personal life, but also really understanding us for more than what we just do, what we do on stage.
Right.
So I think it's so important of understanding how it all started. So, I mean, Adriel, for me, I mean, I do know some background, but I mean, you can
You
do it.
personally, yeah.
So, I mean, for me, can you let me and the audience know and take us back of how it all started?
Okay, so it started in Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised in Ditmas Park and Sunset Park. Ditmas Park is a little bit in the middle east side of Brooklyn Diamond,
Yeah.
and I started dancing my first salsa basic in '04
Hmm.
in my mom's dance studio. Actually, no, let me take it way back. When I was about 3 years old, I used to dance at this studio called La Salsa de Hoy.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
Mike Rodriguez.
Mike Rodriguez, shout out to Mike Rodriguez, shout out to Carlos Vasquez.
Yes.
Carlos Vasquez, man. So, I took my first basic at the age of 3 while my mom was dancing on a team called Revelations.
Mhm.
And my mother was a professional salsa dancer when I was born, and she kept following her dream. So she introduced me to Carlos, and I've had some teachers there that I've really connected with, like Mike, like Ray Colon,
Yeah.
that always, saw some potential in me at the age of 3. And I'm like, I'm just here, dancing my heart out. And also Mike Garcia, shout out to Mike Garcia. He was there training with my mom in Revelation. That's my homie.
Mm.
That was at the age of 3. I started dancing salsa. And then taking it further from there, my mom opened up her first dance studio called Latin Fever Dance Studio. Shout out to Marisol Ramirez, my mom. Shout out to Mike that just said, "Yo, what's good, brother? Miss you, man." My mom opened up her first dance studio in '04, and I started dancing in just classes and just experimenting, seeing what it was. She wasn't forcing me into it, but I was with my mom the whole time. My dad wasn't really around, so I was actually he was in the beginning around till I was 8 years old. So I was playing baseball, I was doing karate because that's what he really saw for me. But my mom saw me dancing,
Mm.
so she didn't really put any pressure on me. I'd just be in the studio listening to the music, listening to Tu Me Hiciste Brujeria and all these different classics. And then I'd just be like, man, like this is fun, And then she started putting me in hip hop and jazz. So at the age of 4 or 5, I was already kicking it, man. And it was a good time because eventually I moved above the studio that I was learning from, which was her first dance studio. So I would live above the dance studio. I'd come home from school, go straight to the studio, watch her teach, eat my food in the studio, do some homework in the studio. Like that was my home. So it all started like that, my brother.
Man, it's amazing you talk about it because of the names you're putting out. Carlos Vasquez, Mike Rodriguez, Ray Colon, and especially your mom, Marisol,
And
and
Mike Garcia.
and Mike Garcia, and realizing too, you talked about karate because there was a karate school right across the street from La Salsa.
You know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So I mean, it comes full circle. But realizing that with your mom, and I love that even though she had her career, she wasn't forcing it because I think that's what happens with a lot of artists. Their
It's
parents,
true.
that gear kind of shifts of allowing your child to make or have a passion for it rather than forcing them to love something they don't.
Truly. That's
And
super important.
for me, realizing as well that La Salsa de Hoy, especially in Brooklyn, has breathed so many dancers.
So
Like
many.
amazing. And it goes almost unheard. I mean, but for people like us, we know because
We
especially
know.
there's you got your Manhattan studios, your Brooklyn, your Bronx, your Staten Island, your Queens. I mean, so there's so many, but especially in Brooklyn, La Salsa de Hoy, for me, working with Mike at one point, knowing Carlos, but just knowing that that studio was amazing, like an academy, and realizing how many dancers
Absolutely.
came back to work with them is special. So realizing you started
Absolutely.
around 3 or 4, you're starting to appreciate it, or you're having a fun time. You have an interest in it, and then your mom owns the studio. You then live upstairs. When was that point that even maybe your mom insinuated or you insinuated that you actually wanted to perform?
Okay, so I first wanted to perform and I saw these tapes only because my mom had them lying around. There was no such thing at that time as like having a video on Facebook or MySpace, Twitter. Like there was social media really wasn't out. So
Yeah.
she would show me these tapes a little later on of me in a like a Puerto Rican shirt, like
Hmm.
with the flag as the shirt, and then like white pants and some
Yeah.
shoes. And I'd be off timing and stuff like that. Like I'd be just messing everything up, and it'd just be this cute little kid that was like, doing some steps with like these older cats. And I'd
Yeah.
always be around people older than me. It was always like everybody around me. There was barely any other like kids my age.
Hmm.
So I realize now that I was put in a place way ahead of time to succeed by Marisol, my mom, because she was seeing something in me, and performing, like you said, started to come earlier because I was training so much that it kind of just felt like the stage was translated almost into like a just more high intensity
Hmm.
class. Like I was just so comfortable in the space that I was training in that when it came to performing, it was like, oh, it's like what I did in class, but just more fun because there's an audience, there's other dancers around me feeding the energy and pushing this thing. So I started to see myself. I don't necessarily remember what my state of mind was when I was performing, but seeing those videos,
Yeah.
now I kind of understand it. And I'm like, okay, this is what she was pushing me to do, but not pushing me like in the pressure aspect. This
Mhm.
is what you have to do. It was always my decision, and I always had fun with it. And then when I wasn't having fun, I'd be like, Mom, I'm not having fun with it. So because that sometimes as a kid, it'd get overwhelming,
Yeah.
the performing and making sure like your rehearsals and your
Remember, you have
costumes.
to remember every step.
Exactly. You have to remember every step. It's like, and she's a drill sergeant. My mom at that time was running, Latin Fever Dance Company. She started a kids team. She had done Los Salseritos that
Yep.
were from also La Salsa de Hoy, another route. Big shout out to Los Salseritos because she was running other teams. She already had that kind of leader mentality and that very strict kind of rehearsal schedule. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see Rosita here and Marcus. Shout out to Rosita. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, thank you for watching. So yeah, like I really got into it because I saw other people doing it and
Mhm.
having fun with it. And I think that's where the performing interest came about.
Man, and it's amazing because with me, you going through the same experience of understanding. We were kids in an adult world. The kids came a little bit after.
Yep.
Like you said, we're in a world that it's primarily more adults. So it actually, for some of us, we're maturing much faster than we realize. You know,
Truly.
we're in social settings that we're not accustomed to. We're trying to remember choreography while still doing homework and making sure we get enough sleep for tomorrow.
Period. Yeah.
I mean, as a kid dancer, because people also have to realize, it was great that after a while when we had these congresses, the New York Salsa Congress, the events
Oh, yes.
when that was the moments that the kids actually got to get together. So,
Yes, the kids. Oh my God. That
I
was
mean,
the best.
yeah, like, we knew Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Labor Day weekend, we're going to be, and I'm talking about the original, the New York Hilton. We're talking about the Hilton time.
Yes.
So
Yes. On
we would come up
57th
the
Street.
escalators or come up the elevators, meet each other right at the front desk to sign in, to get your
You don't
break.
know who you were going to run into first, but you're just saying what's up
Yeah,
to everybody.
exactly. And then most of the time you're running in because you need to get to the nearest class because you want to be late. I mean, you got tech rehearsal. I mean, those for me were some of the great memories. But I still remember, from my understanding, when I saw you with your mom, you were doing a lot of your solo work. It was almost like I knew you were doing other work, but I really noticed when she kind of made you did your little solos here, and I was like, wow, this is very interesting because a lot of times we see of the female soloists, but having children our age or a few years younger, but in our age group, seeing them do it, seeing you do it was inspiring. So for yourself, while you were with your mom at Latin Fever and you're growing into it, did you feel like after a while this is something you want to do long term, or you were kind of just going with the flow of things?
So I just kind of went with the flow because I was, like I said, I was taking on karate, I was doing baseball, and I was also going to a Catholic school, so I was really into you know s- uh a church and school type of, situation. So everything was, really molded into what my values were about at that time. And my great grandmother, RIP, she passed away in 2014. I was honestly from La Salsa de Hoy going to her house like every single day. So I was just kind of going with the flow because, at the age of 8 years old, my dad had to move back to DR because of personal health issues. Because in the States, the seasons change and it's just a lot. So my great grandmother took me in, and my mom would be rehearsing, picking me up, bringing me home, and I'd be kind of going with the flow because I really didn't know where or what I was going to do after school or on the weekends. Like this was just a hobby that I kind of picked up and went with the flow. And then when I realized, my mom's kind of like drilling me on it, that's when it became a little less fun. Because like you said, I'd be sometimes doing solos as a kid, and I'm like, then I see this Mambo Kid video on YouTube like 13 years ago, and I'm like, oh snap, like now I know why she was so hard. That's a hard routine. Like she was so hard on me at that time because I started to lose the fun of it when it's so like it's so drilled. But I did go with the flow, man, because at that time, I was trying to figure it all out. I was going through a lot with my dad kind of moving and my being with my great grandmother at times. I'm like, why am I always here? And then I'm like, you know what? This is just a way for me to escape and forget about the world. Now I'm realizing that and just focus on looking at myself in the mirror and training, having fun, and also learning from my mom was one of the best things ever because she was always striving for the perfect version, striving to get that best version out of me. And even if it wasn't perfect, there was still support, because I feel like once a parent's like, I don't think they just give up. They're like, some of them, they're like, I think, let's kind of switch, because they care. They want the best for you. So, me going with the flow was, the only option I could have because, having my dad be in and out. And then my mom was, at the studio training, teaching and stuff. So that was just my approach to it, man. At that time was really going with the flow.
Yeah. And so a question I have is from like when you really started and you started really now performing at socials, clubs, even congresses, festivals, you name it. What are some of your fondest memories of events that you went to that like you can just automatically think about it and be there right now?
Oh my God. It would have to be New York Salsa Congress from, let me think, 98, 06, probably, because I'm trying to remember the first routine that I did, but it's kind of impossible because the New York Hilton was like one of my favorite eras of the whole salsa scene, the whole salsa community, and congresses in general. I didn't realize how international it was till I was older because I was surrounded around New Yorkers and just so much talent that I couldn't even really catch up with it all. I was just going with the flow, like you said. And my fondest memories have to be at the New York Salsa Congress at the New York Hilton. Like we were talking about going up that escalator, with your costume in hand and you not knowing where you're going, but you got tech rehearsal. Yeah, you got tech rehearsal in 15 minutes and then you get there and they're like, oh no, you're like, now you have to wait 45 minutes because we've already got like 4 acts trying to go up and, and then you're like waiting, you're cold. So you're trying to warm up with your with your little,
oh my God,
with your little jacket, you know what I'm saying? And, my fondest memories were watching the Heartbreak Boys and being like, yo, those mofos are badass. Like I was like, I want to do that. And I looked at them and I was like, look at you, Diamond. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were totally engulfed around it and in that era. And I was looking at that as a kid at the New York Salsa Congress and having that be the milestone that I could achieve one day was something that I was really aspiring to pursue. But I didn't know that the New York Salsa Congress would be every year. So I was kind of like going to it and like, I'm like, okay, like I kind of like this event. I don't know what's going on here. But then when there's like a social afterwards, people are like hanging out, kids are running around, and there's a room here, a room there. There's people outside selling things. I'm just like, this is so much fun. I feel like it's it's a festival. And then I didn't really understand it till I grew up. But my fondest memories were there. I wish I could go back sometimes, because I'm like, dude, the space, the band, the vibe, the performances, the feeling, the international salsa congress was real. It was real in New York City.
Man, see, of course, your mom here. I gotta give it up to.
Yeah, I gotta give it all the credit to my mom, Marisol. You've worked your whole life to put me where I am, and I can never repay all of the time and effort that I see now, and all of the slaps on the ear, lo jala de oreja, like ese jalón de oreja no estaba fácil, like now I understand it, but it's also so great to see us both growing, as she matures and as I mature, it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling to see us, at a different stage in our lifetime. And seriously, man.
Absolutely. And when you talked about it, and I didn't know that you even knew that I was in the Heartbreak Boys, because what people understand for New York, the New York scene, at one point in the New York Salsa Congress, Dave Melendez, the late Dave Melendez, the original founder of the New York Congress, had a group called the Heartbreak Boys. It was usually 5 or 6 boys, and
fire
every year. So it was almost like the NSYNC Backstreet Boys type.
Yeah.
So it was like having a group of boys, and for me, growing from, because I've been doing this since I was 5 or 6, having that moment to be on that stage on that Saturday night that you knew everybody was going to be there, but being the ages from 13 to 17, of being in an adult world, me and you had that luxury of understanding what it meant, because every year you saw the crowds getting bigger. You saw the anticipation. They wanted to know who was performing what night. But I also loved, and I don't think you realized, I was also watching the people who were younger than me, because I was saying, if we're at this point, we know there's going to be a new generation. So for me, I always knew that the people who are younger than me, like yourself, I always wanted to be around to show you, like, hey, it's not about me mentoring you in a sense. Hey, I just want to be there to show you what I went through and show you the notes, because
an educative practice.
Absolutely. And the thing is that we were able to grow with one another throughout the dance scene. Because again, we have the luxury of growing up in it rather than being your 20s or 30s getting into it. So we have a different experience. Like we were underage going to dance clubs. I don't want to say
in New York City. that's what the city life is like.
They were 21 and over clubs, but we were real young. So I mean, we got in and we had our fun.
We did.
Yeah, man. And you talked about especially the New York Hilton days of that atmosphere.
Wow.
But then what I loved, and I don't know if you saw it, was people like yourself and others that now the dance scene started to change, I would say around 08, 09, maybe in my opinion, where the quality had improved. Meaning routines, in a sense, now the choreography was getting more and more complex year after year. So realizing that as a new generation, but as companies, new choreographies coming out, people are pushing the envelope on things.
They are.
I noticed yourself that you were able, as a youth, while you were dancing with your mom, then you got to high school. Then we're talking about you actually going into performing arts high school, which I think was a huge benefit because you were able to learn various styles by professionals, and this was really your schooling.
Right.
You know, and
LaGuardia.
How was it, especially being a graduate of LaGuardia? My dad also was a former graduate, I think like 1980. When the movie Fame came out, my dad...
What?
The movie Fame. Remember the professor, the black gentleman with the glasses? That was my dad's teacher in real life.
Oh my goodness.
So I mean, just full circle, because especially when we talked about you going to LaGuardia and telling my parents, my dad was like, yeah, he showed me the yearbook and everything, and they were filming that movie during that. But for me, that was a sidetrack. But when you were going to LaGuardia, and of course, then still being in the salsa scene, and as you're getting older, was kind of you performing in the scene. It's a normal, but you now getting this experience. How did you feel it changed you?
I think that going to LaGuardia changed me because it forced me, like you said, to push the envelope.
Yeah.
You know, because I got kind of tired, and I don't mean this in any sort of way, all due respect to the salsa scene and super appreciative of every moment I got to feel. I felt like I was getting bored. You know, I felt like I wasn't growing enough. And, you know, there's so many wonderful teachers in the salsa scene, you know, so I was a little more one track minded because at LaGuardia, we were studying Horton, Graham, ballet, and these were modern and contemporary styles mixed with ballet. So I was taking on different kinds of, you know, styles. So I was realizing, how can I push what I have already, because it's still in my body, all of the training in the salsa scene that I have, and bring it to a school, a very famous high school that, you know, basically runs the show in performing arts. You know, they run the show in the performing arts. Huge shout out to LaGuardia, because, you know, there's a lot of stars that have came out of there, you know, and you know, they just don't know the reputation sometimes that LaGuardia has. And in the time that I was there, I realized, you know, what was I, it was more towards the end that I realized, I'm like, this is what I got from this. And as a freshman, I was just like, I can't wait to be a senior and see how I leave this place, you know? So it was a big transition for me, Diamond, because I hadn't danced ballet and contemporary like this. So salsa was always the niche. Salsa was always the go-to because of the New York Salsa Congress. We'd go every single year. And then in 2012, my life kind of shifted, you know, so because then I went to LaGuardia and I started to meet other dancers who did other things. And I was just like, wow, this is blowing my mind, because I've never been in the room with anybody else besides salsa dancers.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a huge transition, because you feel like you don't fit in. You feel like you're like, oh man, you know, I'm doing ballet and contemporary. Is this really what I wanted to do? And then the second year, I started this technique called the Horton technique. It's the Lester Horton technique, and it's very geared towards lines and sharp angles and making like flat backs and having your body aligned. And I see that it started to complement a little bit of what what I had already with my salsa.
Yeah.
So it really started to push me, and I started to, you know, open a box of worms, really, when I started to really put that into my salsa performances. And then I'd perform at places like Candela and I remember a little bit before high school, we did a salsadura event, I think out far. It was a great, like right before high school. But in my high school, when I was training in that, I met also Sekou McMiller. Big shout out to Sekou McMiller. He allowed me to train with him and perform with his performance classes, and all of his projects were super Latin jazz and fusion. Contemporary Latin jazz fusion was his main style. So I was like, oh, I really like that. So as I was going to high school, I was also training with Sekou every Wednesday, and I'd go to his class. I'd you know, pay close attention. You know, I'd really try to share the vibe with him. We just had a great relationship as people, you know, which I feel like is so important. And still to this day, we're best buds. So I think that really helped me transitioning, because he had the jazz aspect and the contemporary, and then I mixed it with, you know, my salsa, but also the LaGuardia training, which was ballet and contemporary. So he was also a huge part, because he would help me with my audition, getting into LaGuardia. And a big shout out to Justin Lopez, Justin Lopez, that I met back at La Salsa de Hoy when I was really young, and then he helped me later in life with my in the LaGuardia audition. So it was a big transition, man, and I feel that it couldn't have been any other way, because I got to enhance what I already had with the salsa scene and these amazing people that are in the salsa scene. Like, and I met you guys, you know, which is one of the best things that, you know, really got me through it. Because I'm like, you know what, I'm aware that the New York Salsa Congress is not the same like at this time, because I wasn't attending. I was in high school, so everything was crazy, but I'm fine with all those memories that I got. You know what I'm saying?
And I think it's different because, you know, like you said, we see each other, and in terms of events, at those times, we would see each other yearly before we were attending
Yeah.
that. So to realize going back to like pre-2010 to actually still keep in contact and connect with each other, I think that separates everything, because there's not just we see each other and that's it. We actually keep in contact, and seeing each other's growth and progression over the years is special, because it's those relationships and those bonds
that's really, all it is.
Absolutely. And now it kind of helps me transition into the segment that I call the randoms, which is a 10 question segment that allows myself and the audience to get to know a little bit more about you.
Let's get it.
All right. Let me know when you are ready.
I am more than ready.
All right. Favorite food?
Pasta.
Favorite dance film?
West Side Story.
Okay. Next one is, what did you want to be at 10 years old?
A photographer.
Nice. All right. Next question is, your favorite social in New York?
Back then or
all time?
Club Cache.
Oh, yes. We're talking about the steps. When we're going down the steps.
When you're going down the steps.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
And I got to perform as a little kid.
Yeah. And then kind of like, all right, you perform, you got to go.
Yeah. You got to go. Yeah. You go to the back where there's there's a boiler room and like everything's run down and disgusting. Yeah, you're going to go change back there with like all the other performers. So there's like 20 of them back there. But shout out to Joe Cache, because he made that shit work.
Absolutely. Shout out to Joe Cache. Next one is, what is your spirit animal?
Oh, it's a hard one. I would think, I feel like an eagle.
Okay.
But I really haven't thought about that question. That's a good question.
All right, next question is, you're out of Congress right now. You could have one performance. Who or what artist would that be?
I think it would be the tribute to Eddie Torres in 2013 when Tomas Guerrero got just a line of guys. It was like Charlie, Matthew, Elvis, like all of these cats that came together to do this huge tribute and killed it. It was to
routine. I remember that.
Yeah.
With the cummerbund and all that. Yes.
The cummerbund. Yeah. Cause I remember that year like yesterday.
All right. And I like that. Great.
Yeah.
What would be your superpower?
I think to read minds.
I like that. You like to go on people's minds right before you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like at all times, just, be 100% aware. Like 100% awareness. Like,
okay. I like that. All right. Next one is, and this gets people a lot, 3 people that are most influential to you at this point in your life.
Okay. First, I'd like to say that teleporting is my superpower instead of the reading minds. Just to be clear with that. Just to be clear.
Thing right here.
Yeah, just to be clear. And then the next question was the three top.
Yeah, 3 people most influential to you.
Most influential to me.
Before you get started, I see your mom here writes, you were the only kid with all adults around you, getting home at midnight to do ballet at 8 in the morning. Oh, wow.
That's right. Some days I don't know how I did it, brother. Even back, my mom's right. Even at Cache sometimes, I'd be performing at like 12, 11, 11:30, and then be like, oh my God, like I have to go to school tomorrow. So
I gotta get home first, then go to school, because them trains don't be running usually.
Trains don't be running, and there's a walk. So like it's not a hop and a skip. LaGuardia was in the city and I was in Brooklyn, and even my middle school where I danced too. She's 100% right. That was hard.
But I was asking before I'm assuming I already know one of the answers, but the 3 people that are most influential to you at this point in your life.
this point in my life. Well, definitely Marisol Ramirez will crossed out a big check off. Very influential, even when we're like, I don't want to do that. I don't like, and we're arguing. We always have a super close bond.
Yeah.
And she's always been, the Bible to me, like just full of information whenever I need it. And as a kid, realizing what she's done for me, she's definitely one of them. Influential people. Does it have to be someone I know, or
anyone?
Can it be anyone? Someone that has really been influencing me recently is Stevie Wonder. I've been listening to his music and kind of in a phase wherever I'm on the train or I'm traveling somewhere and just listening to his Song in the Key of Life album. I think that's how it's called, and just going back on that. And anywhere I'm traveling now, I'm kind of like on my phone. I'm like, yo, gotta put some Stevie on right now, and I got to meet him at the Kennedy Center Honors when we did On Your Feet. But I'll talk about that later.
We'll get into that for sure.
We'll get into that. Right. But Stevie, and I can't think of a third one. I don't know.
All right. Well, if it comes back during the talk.
It comes back, yeah. I'm always like on the last question. I'm slow.
Now the second before last question I'm gonna ask is, and you just brought this about Stevie. What is your favorite Stevie Wonder song on the Keys of Life?
On the Keys of Life, it would have to be. There's so many good ones. I think As would be my favorite Stevie Wonder song, because it's just, he goes off with the riffs at the end, and the music is crazy. He fits right into the pocket of every single instrument that's playing, and he just demonstrates like mastery in all aspects of his music. So I have to say As, like, that's definitely one of my favorite songs.
For me, I would say one of my favorites is Do I Do. For me, everything beginning to end, musical transitions, that's a dancer's song.
He's a goat.
Absolutely. All right.
He's the goat.
Next one, and this is the last one, is if you were on an island, what are 3 things that you can have with you? Nothing else.
Okay. In this time, I would have, this is like a bundle. I would have a portable outlet, so plug in my PS4. All right. Hopefully a PS5. All right.
So wait, you're saying a PS4, PS5, but where's the TV screen?
Ooh. So I need the bundle. I need my TV and my small TV and my PS4 with that portable outlet.
I'll do that for you. You can have the bundle.
That's all I need. I'm sorry.
You don't need that.
You're right. I need that. With the TV and the PS4, I'm good on music. So that's why I say that. I'm good on music. I'm good on movies and stuff like that.
Okay.
Water.
You got no internet.
I got no internet now. Now you got me. That's out. All right, that's out. That's out. That's out. I bring a box of mom or grandma's rice and beans. If I can get it,
Okay.
I'd have it like a care package. Just drop it on me.
Like
Call of Duty. Yeah, you're calling the care package is coming for you. I do that. I do a huge chug of water, man, because water sometimes hits different. It's just like it hits different.
So you got that one water, and then the rest you should be drinking salt water. No, there's no filter. There's nothing.
Yeah.
All right, that's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bro. You gotta do what you gotta do, man.
You gotta how you live.
You gotta do what you gotta do. And
the last one.
The last one. Got my food and my water, man. Wow, that's a good question. Because there's no Wi-Fi, so it's not like there's no entertainment there. I would have to have like a radio or something like that.
All right.
Like one of the old school radios where I could just plug in the cassette tape or the CD and just, if it's portable, because I know a lot of them needed the plug, but I need to have some sort of music with me so I could sit on that island and just relax. You know what I'm saying?
All right. I definitely thank you for doing this segment, man. It definitely helped me get to know a little bit more about you. But if you do remember that last, I believe, superpower, then, or that superpower we were talking about before, and also the three people. I loved when I heard about the three people that were most.
The three people.
We're gonna get into that hopefully later on.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta remember
it. This helps me now transition into, you had gone through high school and you're already in this dance scene, so you're growing within it year by year. As you say, you know, with furthering your dance career in terms of LaGuardia, seeing the end result of where things can go and realizing taking a step back from the scene is only going to help benefit you at this point. Because I think with a lot of dancers, and don't get me wrong, especially with the salsa scene, I love it. My thing is I encourage all dancers to be well-rounded. And having that understanding of having ballet, having contemporary, having acting, having lines classes, even facial, just I've taken classes like that. And I think just being rounded is important because, like you say, sometimes things can just look the same. But you also can see when you have a complete dancer doing a routine and you can feel it. But I also respect, and I think it's great, a person like yourself going to LaGuardia, having those years of experience. It definitely helped shape you, but ultimately you're growing up as a young man now. And so after LaGuardia, where did your dance career kind of fit in, or the trajectory of it? Where did things really start falling into place for you?
After LaGuardia, I took a quick break, and not a break where I wasn't dancing, but a break in general. So I realized that I didn't want to go to college. I just wanted to focus on my career because I felt like I was like, this is prime time for me. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling healthy. I just got fresh out of, 4 years of training, and I feel like I've come a long way. So I wanna see what's out there. I attended some open calls in high school for Broadway shows, for Hamilton, for On Your Feet, for Cats, for Aladdin. I had been auditioning already while I was in high school. So some days I had to leave high school early and they would allow it because it's like, okay, you're going to a specific audition. And once you realize that you need that job because of your livelihood and your survival, that's why the teachers let me leave, because they were like, you need, you'll essentially learn one day that, you have to go to an audition and you might need it at that time, that job. So they were trying to teach me something by allowing me to go. Is like, do it now because you can. And later, because you don't know, nothing's guaranteed. So I got to, at LaGuardia, set myself up because I went to a couple of open calls, and for On Your Feet, I attended an open call because I had looked on BroadwayWorld.com and I saw, oh, there's an equity open call. I'm not equity, mind you, I'm only 17.
Yeah.
I'm only 17. I'm non-equity. I'm not part of the union. I'm just going to go and dance my ass off. So after LaGuardia, I was doing, even in high school, I did a promo for the show On Your Feet because the choreographer Sergio Trujillo had reached out to me. Big shout out to him. He was the person that really, saw something in me and gave me an opportunity with the show. After that open call, I had been called for more things. And actually, it was Maria Torres also at one of the open calls. Maria Torres is a famous hustle dancer, famous choreographer, director. She's really huge, and I attended an open call while I was at LaGuardia.
Yeah,
and she had saw me when I was a kid because Sekou McMiller had brought me to a project with her.
Oh man!
And then 6 years later, fast forward, I'm at this audition, and I'm a senior at LaGuardia, and she sees me. She's like, she remembers me. Like, she's like, oh my God, you grew a lot. Like you're growing. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, like that's how that's inevitable. That's how life is. And I'm like, I don't know this. I'm so nervous at this point. I'm like, I just hope I'm doing a good job. I'm trying to be at the top of the game right now. So then I'm pushing in that audition room. I leave the audition really confident about it. And then and Sergio Trujillo also, he was at an audition that I attended called Freaky Friday. So I went to two an invited call for Freaky Friday that Sergio saw me at.
Yeah.
And also that open call for Maria Torres. So both the associate choreographer and the choreographer had seen me at two separate auditions. But when I auditioned for Sergio Trujillo, who's also like a Tony Award winning choreographer, choreographed The Temptations, Memphis, and a lot of shows, he saw me for On Your Feet. He saw me more for another show. So I auditioned for Freaky Friday, but he saw me for On Your Feet. So I'm like, okay, I'm still in like high school when this is all happening, like I'm like, this is interesting. So I'm doing promos. Fast forward to the year after I graduated from high school. I'm doing promos. I'm going to Miami for 3 days. I'm going to Cleveland for 3 days, Orlando, just to promote the show. And I'm starting to realize, wow, like this is starting to get really cool. Like I'm getting to, work like somewhat in a Broadway community, because I was doing only promotion for it, but it was super gratifying to see like what the talent was like. One time I performed at Rockefeller Center for this event, and the New York Movement was performing. So On Your Feet was the first act, and then the New York Movement came in, and that's another team that I would want to see because they are badass.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That was my journey after LaGuardia. So I kind of segued into training at BDC, Broadway Dance Center, and making sure that I was, like you said, well-rounded to be able to continue.
And also, I love understanding that you also had people or dance figures and leaders in the community that saw something in you. Because like you said, what Maria said is you've grown, but also within that, she sees that you kept the head rather than kind of just stop.
Wow.
Because I think that's what happens with a lot of
That's huge, bro.
Realizing like a woman like Maria Torres, people like Sekou, your mom, and so many others were amazed that you kept going, because it's so easy to kind of just fall back and I had fun, that's it. But then we have those very few dancers like yourself that keep going, keep pushing forward. I mean,
absolutely.
And like you said, now having those opportunities in high school of being able to go to these auditions, and of course in LaGuardia with auditions, they understand the end result. You want to be a professional dancer, so these are just secondaries. But it's up to you to seize that opportunity. And like you said, with Sergio, seeing that he saw something in you, he said, "Hey, Freaky Friday, I don't know, but I see you for this On Your Feet." And realizing having that opportunity, going from being a youth dancer in the salsa scene, being able to be trained with Sekou and Ruben, and just seeing that you kept the head, you kept going on that path, and everything really, in a sense, is falling into place. I think many people, especially with us, we want things to happen quick. But
there's always a rush.
Yeah, and I love too that with you, like you said, you go with the flow. So that's because if you're rushing, you're just gonna miss everything that's hitting you right in your face. So
man.
You're in On Your Feet. What was that experience like? Of this isn't the salsa world anymore, just a New York Congress. No, you're going to city, state to state, and now you're kind of in a bubble with a bunch of dancers, and you're kind of having a new life in a sense.
Yeah. So at 19 years old, 2017, October, we set out to Miami. That was our first city on the tour. And I had started with 3 weeks of rehearsal. We did our first show. We did 3 weeks of rehearsal. We went to Miami, we teched, and that was the start of the 52 city tour. And On Your Feet for me was one of the biggest transitions in my life, and probably one of the best things at that time mentally. What could have happened to me too, because I felt completely surrounded by this talent, by this love, the audiences that were around us, 2,000, 3,000, so different from a social. so different from the salsa scene and even the New York Salsa Congress. It was just a different feeling when there was actors, singers, a live band every single night, you know, and super grateful for the people that were teaching me, like Natalie Caruncho, Hector, Sergio, Maria Torres O'Connor, like all of these people that were setting us up, you know. So we got to Miami and going out on a 52 city tour. It sounds easy to say, but it's just harder to do, you know, and not harder in the sense that, you know, you don't want to be there because you enjoy the feeling of having to share your Latin roots all over the country, because how many shows are Latin? You know, how many times do we get to see a Broadway show about Latin people, about salsa? What we got? West Side Story, where we're with knives, In the Heights, where we're criminals sometimes.
The only hood that I can say, but it was off Broadway, was Latin Madness, and this was 03. I mean, I think even earlier than 3. But realize, like you said, it's so important and it's honest. The representation of us,
we need it.
Yeah. Hey everyone, it looks like thus far that Adriel's connection is a little bit out, but man, we've been having such a wonderful interview. I mean, learning about his life, his journey, the history, I think is really important. And for me, just seeing the growth, the progression, and the journey is amazing. And honestly, we are loving all of the comments that have been flooding in thus far, especially from Mikey, especially from Marisol, especially from Cheryl here, Shirley, especially other people here who have been on. My brother, Willie Concepcion himself, saying 2 of my absolute brothers since day one. Wow. Blessings, my guys. Love y'all. And for me, honestly, it's been amazing to be able to talk to Adriel, because also people understanding what we're talking about here is our experience, our understanding, talking to a person that I've known for over a decade on his experience, on learning what he's been able to do over the years, and just seeing now where we're getting to the point he's hitting on your feet, this Broadway play that honestly, with this 52 national city tour, is special. I mean, for me, it's really amazing understanding the toll, the everything that goes into it. And, you know, honestly, I'm really thankful that we're able to have Adriel on tonight. And don't worry, people, we're definitely going to get back into it. But also, I want everyone to know that I truly thank each and every one of you that have been tuning into the live discussions of Diamond podcast. It's been really great. And honestly, besides our interview tonight, we have some really amazing interviews coming on. And honestly, I'm really excited to tell you guys some great news that we are planning to have. Definitely stay tuned for that. As well, this Friday, we are having the one and only Ataca y la Alemana on the podcast. And this interview, Shirley, you definitely don't want to miss. So everyone, man, I have been having an amazing time seeing how everything's been going. I've loved having Adriel on thus far. We're definitely going to hop back on and try to get him on for a future talk. Things happen, but I am thankful that everyone tuned in tonight. But I think I spoke too soon, because the one and only Adriel is back.
Technical difficulties.
It's all good, my brother, man. And
that's our era.
And this is our era. We have to learn to adapt, you know, and just even before, while you were off, letting people know how much I appreciate your story, because honestly, it's really rare, especially in our community, that we have a person in the inner city who can go into this dance scene and really progress and take it somewhere further, you know. And for me, understanding what you've been able to accomplish thus far is great. But again, realizing now you're on the show on your feet. Now you're in a whole different social setting. And what were those experiences like?
In the social settings for On Your Feet, we're very much like a family because we travel to every city together. We do 8 shows a week together, 2 on Saturdays, 2 on Sundays, and then we travel on Mondays to the next city. So
Hmm.
basically, we were nonstop. We wouldn't have any. Really, the only downtime obviously was during the day because we performed at night.
Yeah.
But we were a family. Social setting was very communal. It was very inviting, and the cast that I had was wonderful. Christy Prades played Gloria, and Shani Tamor from the salsa scene was also in it, and she was actually my partner. Shout out to Shani Tamor. She was my partner in the show, and we really got to grow closer as artists, but also as people and grow. Just progress forward, doing wonderful choreography, and the set being the way it was, the lights, the band. We performed with the Miami Sound Machine, which they're really the celebrities of On Your Feet because they toured with Gloria Estefan in the 80s. And getting to meet Gloria, getting to meet Emilio, the social setting was very inviting and welcoming. And
Hmm.
one of the biggest highlights was getting to do the Kennedy Center honors, where we paid tribute to Gloria. And we there were so many people there, like Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, LL Cool J, and like a bunch of really cool like celebrities, A-list, that were there. And we got to meet them after the show, and just kind of, there was always like an after party to be
Yeah.
able to kind of get to know these people instead of just being on stage the whole time and always performing. We got to actually have a one-on-one connection with these people sometimes, and that was like the best part for me, is because I got to know them and I got to experience like what the vibe in the real professional world was, which I hadn't experienced in the salsa scene that much. I had gone to socials and I got to meet like people in one specific community, but then when I also met people in another community, I realized there's a whole nother world out
Yeah.
there. It's a
It's
whole
true.
nother world.
When you're stuck in that bubble of a dance scene and then you have that opportunity to expand, and it's like, wow, it is a whole new world. But
Truly.
you seizing every opportunity you've been given thus far, and you coming back from that national tour, I think it was really special for the community as well, because a lot of us were proud because we knew someone that, again, in our scene, we can be on TV screens here and there, but a lot of times mainstream media doesn't really see how it is. You get a glimpse of it from a couple in America's Got Talent or a So You Can Dance in that salsa. But for us, we lived in that world. And I think we gained so much knowledge and maturity from it. Because, like you said
Truly.
earlier, we were able to be around adults that kind of made us grow up a lot quicker than maybe we wanted to. But it helped us understand the journey we were going to go through as men as well. Because
Right.
understanding in this world, you can get a gig today and tomorrow you might not have one. So
Truly.
realize, as a dancer, you have to work every audition. Every audition, you should be working like it's your last.
And
So
being well-rounded.
absolutely. That's a key word in any dancer's mind, should be, or a mindset should be that. So for me now, kind of in the present day, COVID-19 hits. And for me, I think in general, it takes the world by storm, but especially the dance community, the arts. So for me, you as an artist, how were you able to adapt? Or how did everything really kind of affect you as a dancer, but also just in life?
Wow. So it was super deep. I got into the quarantine around March 14th, and staying motivated. I was supposed to do, I'm sorry about that. I was supposed to do a film, and it got, yeah, I got cut out of it because the script changed. So that was um really discouraging, and a lot of projects that I was looking forward to got moved or postponed. So I was constantly trying to figure out what I was going to do next, whether it was, virtual, or, just a way to pay back my, like what to do with my time, whether I pay back to some of the community that helped me, or like, what am I focusing on to go forward? Like, during when the quarantine hit, everything was kind of, shifted in my head, and I became very like, obviously staying at home, like people were like, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm like, the same thing as yesterday. Why are you even asking me that question anymore? You know, like I got very like, you know, defensive about it. I'm just like, oh, like we're all in this together. And the longer you guys still try to go out and do all this stuff, the longer I'll be cooped up in here. So I'm being
Yeah.
selfish. I'm being selfish by saying that. I'm being selfish by saying that. I'm like, you know, everyone needed to play their role in this, in this, especially in New York when it was bad around April and May. I think that that was the time that I really it started to hit me that I was going to be, you know, not doing what I love to do anymore. And then what really changed recently is that they postponed Side Story to next December of 2021 when it was supposed to release December 18th of literally 2020, you know, so it was going to be released in like 2 weeks. So hearing that news and me already knowing kind of that that was going to happen, when it was announced, it was just like, wow, this, you know, this really changed the whole game for entertainment. You know, entertainment just became completely different because it feels like we were pushed to the side a little bit because they were like, you know, this is not an essential business. And even coming back now when things are slowly starting to come back, I feel like we're still not able to put certain safety protocols and progress us forward yet because we're still figuring it all out. So when quarantine hit, my man, like I was just really trying to figure it all out and be, you know, as optimistic as I can while everybody around me sometimes was a little wonky and was like, oh, you know, I gotta know what to do. And I'm like, well, you know, try to do something because we're all in this together, man. And it's just checking in with people. It gave me time with my family that I'll never get back. And the communication and stuff that I haven't had with certain people, I gained it during quarantine, especially with family, most of all, man, because that was always the first thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the honesty and the transparency because again, in this field, especially with the arts, it was kind of course, pushed to the back burner, but realizing all of the people that it affected. But at the same chord, you finding that light through the tunnel of saying, hey, now I'm going to take this time to reflect on me, focus on what's important to me, which is my family, which is my health, which is just my overall being. So for me, just hearing that from you, especially because it was the same thing for me, being a cook and literally losing your job or actually going on furlough and then losing it, but realizing every industry now was going to change in some form or fashion. So now seeing in the present day how we all have been able to adapt in some form or fashion. For me, no matter how many years we've been dancing, for me, every time seeing you perform in some way is just refreshing. It's like the first time all over again. And for me, it's like just seeing, especially the work you've been able to do as a professional, is so warranting because we realize in our world there's only very few people that can really make it there if they choose to. But also realizing what your mom has been able to instill in you, but also what you have been able to do for you is very important because all the motivation in the world means nothing if you don't put that effort in.
No one can ever say that they make you, you make you. So I think that that is the thing. And, you know, my mom had done a good job of making sure that I was self-made, that I did the work, that I chose to do what I wanted to do. And when I got into LaGuardia, that's when I was making myself, you know, that's when I was preparing myself for the professional journey that I wanted to pursue. And also not knowing as a high schooler where I would go, you know, was very nerve-wracking, but now I have a clearer idea. And thank you for saying that about my performances, man, because I've always, you know, tried to be as authentic as possible to my, you know, to my style and to myself. And, you know, a lot of things in the salsa scene, like it's very easy to adapt to someone's style and copy and paste and stuff like that. So I think it's super important. That's why I want to be well-rounded and take all these different styles, take acting, take singing, so that you can make yourself and make your style, choose who you want to be. So I'm glad you touched on that. That's something really that I wanted to say.
No, absolutely, man. Because for me, talking with you, this isn't just the interviewer talking to the interviewee. This is for you. I've known you so long and seeing your journey and see how much hard work you put in, that this here is more of a celebration of that success. Whether we're face to face or doing what we're doing now on this platform, I'm here celebrating all of your success because you made it. In my eyes, you made it. In many other people's eyes, you've made it. Of course, you want to do more and more. But
Always.
to realize that in our community, we can say we know someone that travels the world, evidently, no matter what, is being promoted all over the world as the group, but you being able to make it out successfully. And even though you have bumps in the road, you're still able
Always.
to overcome because in life, things just happen and you just have to learn to adapt. And, tonight I think has been really special because we've been able not to just celebrate Adriel as the dancer on the stage, as a professional dancer on Broadway, but then even just celebrating you as the human being. And I think that's more rewarding than anything.
Thank you. I think that being here with you talking about this stuff really allows me to also celebrate, that success for myself, because a lot of the times we're always thinking so much about the future that it becomes an anxious type of, you develop a relationship with your future as anxious, and I think that it's so important to take these moments to reflect and be present, because I think that me doing this with you has allowed me to bring back to being in the moment, and I think that that's something that we always have to do as artists is, realize what we have in the moment. And that took a lot of, time to realize, I just realized that the being in the moment is the best thing that we can do, because we look back and we're like, man, sometimes we're like, man, I wish this was like that. Maybe I would like you gain wisdom and then you wish you had that wisdom before.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, and doing this with you has, opened up, a door to me reflecting, and just being super comfortable. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And besides us talking, people, my boy Biscuit, all the way from London here, another one who has an awesome podcast platform, as well as the founder of Tu Bachata Radio here, is watching us as well. So just so you know, as we're talking here and people are watching on Facebook, people are watching
Right.
on YouTube, they're also being able to watch live stream on radio as we speak, and realizing how many voices your story is hitting. How many people are now being able to listen to your story and be inspired by it, whether they know you on a personal level or have seen you perform and just wanted to know maybe a little bit more about you. And I think, again, tonight has been amazing that we've been able to talk, to just, build with one another, catch up. And because, again, I think it's truly important because, again,
It
I've
is.
always wanted you to see that I was always going to be there for you beyond dance.
Always were. Yeah.
So for me, it's, now having a platform to have you on to speak about your journey, but have you just give us your history is more rewarding than anything. But, at least before we definitely close out, if you do have any last words for myself and the audience.
Well, I just want to thank you. I want to roll out the red carpet for Diamond Rivera. Rolling out the red carpet for my boy here. He's, you're doing the best kind of thing for people right now, allowing them to speak and allowing them to communicate to a larger audience, and always being open with many questions. Like, you're so good at interviewing. You ask really good questions, and you have a certain talent that only you can have, you know what I mean? And I think that that is what I appreciate the most about you, is you having this specific talent, and me dancing with you. It's my honor now to be able to talk to you and have these, more adult conversations, aside from the craziness that we used to be into, man. Like we used to be bugging out, so I'm like,
I know.
so, those parties, but yeah, exactly. So, it's just my time here, to say, go watch West Side Story in 2021 in
Yes.
December. Make sure you watch that. Stay updated on my Facebook, Adriel Fly, and on my Instagram, Adriel_Fleet, FLETE. I'll be posting on my stories, on my posts sometimes, about what I'm doing, but I really like to keep myself personal sometimes. So
Yeah,
if you need
absolutely.
to reach out, reach out to me, I'm always, I'm always here. I'm open to the community, for the salsa scene, for anyone who's watching out there. Please reach out to me if you have any other inquiries or business or questions. we can always, we can always stay together, because I feel like that is the main thing right now during this situation, is remaining connected with each other. So I just want to thank you so much for this connection and this time to reflect with you, man. It's a big celebration for me too, man.
Absolutely, man. And again, I appreciate you taking your time because, of course, I know you're a busy man. I want everybody as well, again, check out in 2021 Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. My boy Adriel here will be in that movie. Again, man, I'm so proud of you. And like I tell many of my guests, this is our first interview, but it surely won't be the last. And I definitely can't wait next year to catch up with you, see how all the production, how everything's going, and just see how Adriel's doing, seeing what's up with you, what's new with you, and just catching up.
Absolutely.
So thank you again tonight for an amazing interview. Thank Marisol, thank my Brooklyn family, New York family, people all over the world listening and watching, because again, here, man, my boy Adriel is fly. And he's definitely, man, 2021 is definitely your year.
Thank you, brother. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to you, man. Huge thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, audience. Everyone, have a great night. Enjoy your weekend. And again, everyone, stay in touch.
Happy holidays, guys.